Hey everyone, this is Athelophy here. I'm here to show you how I've been doing UV texture painting in Blender so far. I've painted the back of the head and the front of the hair so far, and I've been using a mixture of different brush settings available in Blender. So in this video I'm going to finish the head, complete the ponytail, and UV texture map the face. I mostly paint on top of the model and then switch to the UV map and color that to fix any mistakes. As you see here, I'm doing more of an anime style character, so I took off the usual Blender shader that is applied to the model by default so I can see the UVs better. Before you go into texture paint mode, you want to make sure that you're in object mode to select the piece you want to paint and then switch to edit mode. Once you're in edit mode, you can switch to texture paint mode. I already UV unwrapped the hair on this one, so I'll show you the process of unwrapping once I get to the face. The most important thing to mention is that Blender's texture maps don't have any layers, so there's no erasing per se. I know that I paint on one layer due to my own digital painting experience, but I understand it can be difficult for other people. So to remedy this, you want to make sure you're creating a color palette as you go so you can switch between colors very easily. You want to make sure you're in the texture paint tab up top. I found out that I was in the UV editing mode, which is why I couldn't see the UVs on screen. So I like to start by figuring out what part of the UV map I'm in. So I draw on top of it to see where it appears on my model. Once I know where I am, I go on the model itself and start painting. I use the stabilized stroke setting to get the rough shapes down. You can make the brush bigger or smaller by using the bracket keys. Once you finish the rough shapes, you can turn off the stabilized stroke and paint in the areas that are missing in the UV map. When I add the highlights, I turn on the stabilized stroke again and get the straight lines. I should also mention that I'm using a stylus. It does help a lot when you want to minimize the pressure you're using on your brush. For our lock here, we want to add in a gradient, so we just make the brush really big and just dab on the screen. From here, I just continue to paint the hair as I explained before. I noticed that some of my meshes are overlapping, so I'm going to have to go into the mesh in edit mode and move it out of the way. I'm just going and fixing the mesh where it is sunken in and overlapping with other parts by using the G key. I then noticed there's a part of the UVs that need to be fine-tuned, so I'm just going through and fixing that. For example, like how the side hair doesn't have any gradients at all. You see there's hair poking out in the mesh on top of the head. It wasn't until I went through and started to paint the gradients of the UV textures that I noticed the middle hair strand was the one causing the problem. So I was able to fix that by painting the texture. With the ponytail, I'm going to take a completely different approach. I'm going to isolate each strand of the ponytail and paint them individually. That way I can make sure they all look good from all sides. Here's a time lapse of me doing that. And once I'm finished, this is how the hair looks. Now we're onto the skin and eyes. To start, I'm going to go through and put seams on the body. I'll be putting the seams in areas where you would most likely not see them. We'll turn off the hair for now and go into edit mode. I already started doing the seams for the head, but I haven't finished it yet. So what you want to do is go into edge mode, select the edges that you want, and then right click and mark seam. I'm starting with the hands since I foresee that it's going to be the most difficult part. First, I'm going to mark seams around all the nails of the hands since I want them to be a different color. It takes me a bit to select all the edges since they are so close together. I want to mark seams around the middle of the hand so the UVs of the front and back of the hand are separate. I switch between X-ray mode and normal view so I can select the edges easily. To select a row of edges, you hold down Alt, holding Shift Alt to add more edges in the loop selection. After I mark the seam, the hand is separated from the top and bottom. I will now show you a time lapse of the seam making. Now we're ready to set up the UV mapping textures. Now that everything has seams, it's time to apply all your transformations to your meshes. Anything like subdivision and mirror has to be applied. After I do that, what I want to do is be in edit mode, select all, and press U to unwrap the texture. So you're probably wondering why I jumped to the already painted body. Actually, I already recorded this once and realized I forgot to put a seam somewhere on the body, which caused the UVs to warp in a weird way. Plus, the face needed a higher resolution as well, so I decided to completely redo the UVs. Now you get to see me repaint the entire body. Unlike the hair, I paint directly on the UV texture map while only occasionally painting on the model to get a cleaner look. I just found that it was much easier for me to paint things like the chin and the neck that way. Because if you paint on the body, the texture can sometimes stretch, giving it an unappealing look. After I was done with the body, I moved on to the eyes. With the eyes, I took a different approach, since I wanted them to look like a kaleidoscope. While I could have done it in Blender, it was just much easier to make the eyes in Clip Studio Paint. So you'll see me outline the eyes in Blender so I can bring it into Clip Studio later. And that's how I UV texture map the body, eyes, and hair. Let me know if you guys like this more long form content where you get to see me learn how to do new things. It's trying something a little new here. If you like this content and want to see more, hit that like button and subscribe. I also have a Ko-Fi for those of you who wanted to support me. If you have any other ideas for a video, comment below. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.